From the moment Ayla Grant opened her eyes that morning, something felt painfully familiar yet strangely different, like the quiet before a storm, or the fragile peace that comes right before life shifts in unexpected ways. She had spent the past year moving through her days like a shadow, drifting silently from room to room. In the empty house that once overflowed with warmth, laughter, and the steady presence of her husband, losing him had torn a hole through her heart. So deep she often wondered if she would ever feel whole again. But that morning, just as the world outside glowed with the soft light of dawn, Ayla heard a sound she had nearly forgotten. Not the creak of floors, not the hum of appliances, something far more powerful. Her children were laughing. If you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories to you. For months, Hana and Caleb had been locked inside the silent walls of their grief. 10-year-old Hana, once full of imagination and mischief, now kept her eyes down and her voice soft, as if speaking too loudly might break what was left of her world. 8-year-old Caleb, formerly a whirlwind of energy, now clutched his toy cars quietly and avoided long conversations, choosing instead to retreat into loneliness. Ayla had tried everything she could to keep them afloat: therapy sessions, gentle talks, new routines, but grief had wrapped around their small hearts, heavy and consuming. She had prayed for a moment, just one moment, where they could breathe freely again. That was why, when she stepped out onto the upstairs balcony and saw her children laughing, really laughing, her heart nearly stopped. Beneath the cool shade of the old maple tree, Caleb and Hana sat at a small picnic table, their faces bright, their shoulders relaxed, and standing beside them, arranging freshly baked muffins as if he were performing a magic trick, was Micah Stone, the new gardener she had hired only 2 weeks ago. Ayla blinked in disbelief. Micah was a quiet man, tall and strong, with gentle eyes that carried a depth she had noticed but never questioned. He kept mostly to the garden, working diligently, never pushing conversation beyond polite greetings. She had never expected him to be the one to bring light back into her children's lives. Ayla leaned forward, watching as Micah pretended to fumble dramatically, causing Caleb to erupt in giggles. Hana covered her mouth, laughing softly, her eyes sparkling in a way Ayla had not seen since before the tragedy. The sight sent a wave of emotion crashing through her jaw, mixed with guilt, relief tangled with sorrow. She had long believed she was the only one who could help her children heal. Seeing someone else succeed where she had failed pierced her heart, yet also awakened something fragile and precious within her: hope. Over the next few days, Ayla observed small but powerful changes around the house. Caleb started coloring again, bright trees, smiling faces, little plants he said Micah taught him about. Hana spent more time outside, sometimes returning with butterflies perched on her hands, whispering excitedly about how Micah showed her to care for injured wings. Ayla watched these transformations with quiet amazement. Healing was happening, tender and soft, like new leaves peeking through cracked soil. One afternoon, when Ayla looked out the kitchen window, she saw Micah kneeling beside Hana, teaching her how to plant mint leaves gently into the earth. Caleb sat nearby, watching with deep concentration. The scene was so peaceful that for a moment, Ayla simply closed her eyes and breathed a long, deep breath she hadn't taken in months. She realized how exhausted she was from being strong alone, from carrying all the weight by herself. And despite her lingering guilt, she couldn't deny the truth. Micah was helping her children in ways she no longer could. Still, a part of her hesitated to accept this strange new warmth entering their lives. Was it wrong to let someone else fill the spaces her husband once occupied? Was she betraying his memory by feeling comfort in another person's presence? These questions floated through her mind late into the nights. She often sat with her husband's photo pressed against her chest, silently apologizing for feeling tired, lonely, and broken. She feared that allowing someone else to bring joy into their world might erase the pain she felt she needed to hold on to. Then, one windy afternoon, Ayla gathered enough courage to step into the garden while Micah worked. She found him repairing a broken section of the fence. When he looked up, his eyes held understanding without judgment, eyes that felt familiar, safe. Ayla thanked him quietly for spending time with her children. Micah simply nodded, saying with sincerity that her kids reminded him of his younger self, the one who lost both parents early and had no one to guide him through the darkness. He told her he knew grief intimately, that it could swallow a person whole if kindness didn't intervene. Something gentle settled inside Ayla then. For the first time, she sensed that Micah wasn't trying to replace anyone. He was simply offering a steady hand in a storm they were all trying to survive. As the days warmed into early spring, Ayla found herself gradually stepping into the garden more often. Sometimes she brought lemonade, sometimes she helped pull weeds while Caleb rambled excitedly about the superpowers of different plants. Other times she watched silently as Micah guided her children with patience she deeply admired. Slowly, she felt her heart opening not in a romantic sense, but in a healing sense, like doors she had locked long ago beginning to creak open. One Saturday morning, Micah surprised the children with a small outdoor picnic. He had arranged colorful fruits, sandwiches, and fresh muffins on a wooden table under the sunlight. Hana and Caleb practically danced around with excitement. Ayla hesitated at the doorway, but Micah met her eyes from across the yard and gave a nod so warm, so inviting, that she stepped forward. As she sat beside her children, she felt the sun warming her skin, felt their shoulders leaning lightly against hers, felt their laughter filling the empty spaces inside her chest. She felt alive for the first time in a long while. That picnic became a turning point. Ayla realized that healing wasn't betrayal. Grief didn't mean staying broken forever. And accepting someone's kindness didn't mean forgetting the person she lost. Rather, it meant allowing life to move forward, even gently, even slowly. But the moment that truly shattered her came unexpectedly. One night, she overheard Hana whispering to Caleb. Her daughter said she still loved Daddy, but she didn't feel scared every day anymore because Micah made the garden feel safe and warm. Caleb agreed softly, saying he didn't feel so alone when Micah was around. Ayla covered her mouth, tears streaming silently. She realized that her children hadn't stopped grieving. They had simply found a safe place to breathe again. The next day, Ayla approached Micah as he watered the rose bushes. Her voice trembled when she thanked him not just for helping the children laugh, but for getting them back a childhood they had begun to lose. Micah listened quietly, his expression soft, and simply said that sometimes life sends people not to replace what was lost, but to remind us that light still exists after the darkest storms. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us continue sharing inspiring real-life stories. Before the ending, please comment "Hope lives again" if this message reached your soul. In the weeks that followed, Ayla found herself smiling more, laughing more, and for the first time in a year believing that life could be beautiful again. She didn't know what the future held, or where Micah's presence would lead, and she didn't rush to define it. What mattered was that the darkness was lifting from her children's hearts, and from hers. Healing wasn't a sudden burst of sunshine. It was the steady, gentle glow that grew whenever kindness was near. And as Ayla watched her children running barefoot through the grass, while Micah set down a tray of fresh muffins on the picnic table, she felt a peace she never imagined she would feel again, because healing had finally found its way back home.